Hello, Global Theater. My name is Gerry Fialka. Today is August 25, 2025. How's that for numerology? we want to thank Rob Grant, his amazing podcast, I'm Probably Wrong About Everything. Please subscribe. Also want to thank Craig Baldwin for introducing me to today's guest and being able to show his films at Midnight Special Bookstore in Santa Monica many years ago, the oldest political bookstore in the world. It's an honor and a pleasure. Johan Grinmonprez. Say your name so we get it right.
Something like that. Well, in Puerto Rico, they say Juan Gomez Perez, but in Belgium, it's Grinmonprez. Depends where you are.
Grinmonprez, thank you. Johan, where are you calling from?
From Greece. I'm partially also based here. So with a bit of a garden community and growing a little bit of food, I think it's the way to go. If you talk garden.
That's the way to go. Well, maybe you just answered the first question. What is the best thing for a human being?
Oh, I think the best thing for a human being, but I think we're also different, no? I think that's a question that everybody would answer in a different way. But you're probably addressing this to me, so.
Well, the funny thing is there's so much psychic energy happening here. That's what I usually say when they answer the question. I will say, well, 80% of people say this. I get a million different answers, but there is a consensus about 80 to 90% of the people say a certain thing. So it's whatever. Yeah, you can answer in the context. In other words, you can answer in the context you want. You could say, well, I think people would answer it this way. I would answer it this way, however you want.
Well, let me throw one in, getting close to your story. I think that's sort of crucial. But that would be of course, again, that would line up with what I've just said, that for everybody would be a different story. But to get close to your story is like, I think the closer you get to that, I think the more you align with the universe, the more it gives you. Yeah. This sounds like very philosophical, but okay.
Well, that's beautiful. I love it because it's that commonality. You line up with the universe. Really good words. What is your favorite?
Or the pluriverse for that matter. The pluriverse for that matter.
Say that again?
Or the pluriverse for that matter.
Pluriverse? I've never heard that. Pluri?
Yeah, it's to stay away from the multiverse because that's already so coded and sold out, right? To stay away from the multiverse, the pluriverse.
So who invented pluriverse as a word? Do you know?
I think it's a conjunction of plurality. So again, it goes about sort of all these different stories that coalesce and live together, and sometimes clash as timelines can crash and clash.
Yeah, because I've used the word multiverse for years, but pluriverse I've never heard, and I can't wait to do the etymology search on it. But I know it's rooted in plurality, but who put it together? And, it's like etymology. So anyways, the second question is, what's your favorite form of information? How it comes into you?
Well, I think intuition would be a big one, but that's sort of be a bit vague. But intuition, I think there is something of like what I would call in a film where you have sound versus text versus image, that sort of suddenly a third space is being opened up and things fall into place. I think that's sort of where the magic happens, and that's for me quite crucial.
That's
but on every level, I think it's the poetics versus the politics, sort of the realism versus the fantasy. It's like where those things clash is an interesting zone to explore.
Yeah.
Where I feel something is opening up that is sort of maybe close to what reality is, because maybe reality is also something that is on the go, that's on the make, and we all plug into that reality and we all give shape to that reality, but the reality also shapes us. So it's maybe something else is being co-created that I think is sort of, for me, an interesting space to explore.
Totally. You touched on everything we're going to delve into deeply, because that's what McLuhan called that is the resonating interval. So it's the in-betweenness. So tactility isn't your hand touching your hand. Tactility is that space between your hands. So he called it in real pop advertising terms, the gap is where the action is. That's where the action is that in betweenness. So between political and poetics. You know, one of my teachers says, I'm a poet and a politician.
And yet,
It,
well, if you choose to tell your own story, that's a political choice,
that's a
because
polit.
we're so bombarded with stories that actually, at the end, if you carve out, and I think even the choice to actually become a filmmaker, it's in a sense you choose to carve out the meaning in what is given to you as well. Of course, we do that also in a shared way. Yeah? I don't want to, like, if I say pluriverse or plurality, doesn't mean that all these stories don't connect. They do connect, and it's not that you live in an isolation. You give actually meaning to your subjectivity and relation too. So everything is in relation. So it's
Everything.
yeah, and that's also,
Yeah,
being aware of that is political. It's not
yeah,
just that. It's the nitty gritty of, like, how the lobby system and the corporatocracy has grabbed a hold of the political mechanism. But I think what we sort of lost there is the individual being plugged into a commonality, a peer-to-peer, or like a dialogue that is part of the political process. And I think we lost that.
yeah.
And for whatever reason, it's not. But I think there is something where corporatocracy, it's in Shadow World, right? Chris Hedges, who sort of says
Yeah.
we've gone a corporate coup d'etat in slow motion, and it's the corporate hold, especially in the United States, but it's the same in Europe. They have more lobbyists than politicians, and so the political sort of, what's really political has been atrophied as a dialogue, I feel. Of course, these are big things we're not talking about.
But that's beautiful. I want to do both big and little with you, Johan. I appreciate it because again, you touched on like the three major things McLuhan did his whole career. One is pattern recognition. You study the patterns and then you can get a big picture, comprehensive awareness. And then you said the word understanding relationships. That's his whole thing. Then when you study these patterns, you can try to understand the relationship between the poem and the political issue. Whatever, it's the relationship which makes it exist. And then Shadow, Chris Hedges, he did a big thing on Ulysses a couple of years ago. That was amazing. But Shadow is Jung, integrate the shadow self and get integrate. So why do you think humans, and I loved your answer, intuition, because that's what I'm after. I'm not after the evident. What's your favorite form of information? People say reading, they say something that's more tangible. These answers can be things that are not tangible. So that I loved intuition as being. Now, why do you think humans collect or gather information?
Well, to give meaning to whatever surrounds them in
Yeah,
relation to, right? So, and I think, you know, truth, but also when it comes to, if you commit science or you talk politics, I think, or reality, it's all relational. I think,
yeah,
truth is historical. History is sort of on the move, and truth changes, and it's in relation to.
yeah.
And like, I did a little film. I don't know if I talked about it. Maybe we talked about it when I was over at USC. Was that I interviewed a cognitive scientist, Raymond Tallis, and he's professor of medicine in Manchester. We interviewed him. A question was, why can't we not tickle ourselves? And he went on about the ontology of the other, that actually you need the other to tickle you. And again, it's that relationship. And this was part of the diplomatic section in Shadow World. We had also Michael Hart, right, who coined the question of, like, okay, should we go by fear or by love? In Machiavelli, the prince, the advice is, we should go by fear or
Yeah,
by love. And fear is, the locus is in the leader, while love is in the locus of the population. Now, love, you could call it community, yeah, or relation.
yeah,
And Raymond Tallis actually would have fit in there. We cut it out of the film, but it became a little film on itself. And he talks a lot about how, we give meaning to ourselves in relation to politics. Is also, what Michael Hart alludes to is the joy of being sort of in community together, which actually is a political agency, which is quite
Yeah.
crucial. But tickling, to go back to tickling, it's
Yeah.
only when schizophrenic you can actually laugh with your own tickling, but you need the other to tickle you. So we could actually say, you tickle me, therefore I am.
Dude, that's like Frank Zappa had a great question. Can you come and laugh at the exact same moment? So, I mean, usually coming is something you share with another person, but it doesn't have to be. But it's sort of that thing that we need another person. And first of all, before I go into this, I wanted to ask, what's the short film the Raymond Tallis is in? What's it called?
It's Raymond Tallis on tickling. That's what it's
Oh,
called.
on tickling. And is that on your website or
You can, if you go my name with BE, which is
Yeah.
very Shakespearean, but it's actually just Belgium.
Yeah.
Johan Grinmonprez.be. You go to films, you will find Raymond Tallis on tickling. You also find a lot of other little
films. What film was Raymond's footage going to be in?
In Shadow World. It was
in Shadow Worlds.
Yeah, because to sum it up, Shadow World is an investigation into the corruption of the global arms trade, which is a pleonasm anyway.
Yeah.
Right. So and the sort of the big template is that war, which is a war is a public function, but it has been privatized.
Yeah.
And that actually there's a corporate hold on foreign policy by way of selling weapons, and it's the defense industry you name it. CEOs would become part of the Iraq think tank, and they were before, through the revolving door, they were part of Lockheed's Smart and boardroom. They become part of the Iraq think tank, and it's very much that the defense corporation, and we shouldn't call it defense corporation. We should call them war corporations that have a hold over foreign policy.
Yeah.
And so in that film, that was sort of the conclusion that the so-called the security state is actually the insecurity state and actually causing insecurity. But we wanted to counteract that because there's Bill Hartung. Bill Hartung is a defense scholar as well, who sort of did a study and said, or the statistics are as such that the diplomatic corps of the United States is smaller than the personnel to actually operate an aircraft carrier, and the United States has 12 or 13. And so you could, and maybe it's now even less. And so the diplomatic tools that the United States has completely atrophied. And so if there's a conflict, then you grab to the tool that you actually are comfortable with, and that's the war tool. And so,
yeah, don't even call it a tool. It's a miscuing of. Anyways, let me go into that for a second. What year is Shadow World?
Shadow World came out 2016, and it was shown on PBS, but it premiered at Tribeca.
Okay.
Yeah.
2016. And so here's the thing. To go back, I didn't say, most people go, what's the best thing for a human being? 80-90% people go love. Okay. Now love is a good thing, and it's, it means a lot of different things. But I wrote an essay recently called Can Art Stop War? And it's based on Finnegan's Wake by James Joyce in 1939. It was basically, he created a manifesto to propagate that humans, it's anti-war manifesto. It's that humans are more hardwired to be cooperative than war, than violence. Exactly. And then when you said the word co-creating, that's what American Indians, indigenous, natives in America, they did this. They went from tent to tent. I would go to your tent in the next day and I say, well, what did you dream? And then you would say, oh, I saw this boat on this cloud. And then I would ask you more questions and I would co-create your dream with the questions I asked you. And that's what Joyce created with Finnegan's Wake, that it's a living organism that you have to read out loud with a group of people, which you normally don't do with a book. So that when you were saying, well, we've changed and all that, and it's like typical, we're the ships hit the fan, we're in trouble. No, you can you can read Finnegan's Wake with people out loud and change the world. But that's a high.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, that's like, yeah, right. But anyways, it's a living organism. So that's what I think you're promoting a lot, is that humanity exists in this living organism sensibility, that we're more hardwired to be with other people than to fight with them.
yeah, yeah. And Shadowell's trajectory is a little bit that. But it starts sort of towards the 80s, where social Darwinism infused also the political climate. Thatcher Reaganism was very much about, oh, there's no such thing as society, and social Darwinism was a celebration of the individual, and greed is good and might is right. But if
Yeah,
you go back, you would just mention the indigenous community, First Nation. When the Boland Act came about, where actually you could own a piece of land, but you have to actually do it as a private person, because the
yeah,
legal law was actually only accepting if you do it as a private person.
yeah,
But that actually destroyed the fact that actually property was defined very differently. There's also this whole discussion with the New Zealand River, and the river has been made in a legal entity. But there was critique the fact that actually a living river cannot be a private individual according to law, even if it's so admirable that actually a tree or a forest or a river can have legal rights when it comes to international law. But there was a problem in the fact that you cannot define it as a private individual, and that actually destroyed for a big part, the First Nation, well, the legality of all what's happened with First Nations, who is terrible what was going on. But
totally.
it's true that when one talk about, let me go back to love, because I made this little film with Michael Hart on the politics of love. You know, we wanted to actually team him up with Lauren Berlant, also, who has been written on love. And so there's something to be said, because if you look back at Hannah Arendt, she said, if you marry love and politics, it ends up in fascism. So
Wow.
you have to be careful. If you subjugate the individual to the state, that actually creates fascism. But it's not what actually Michael Hart meant. But Lauren Berlant, she cautioned that actually, love can also be very destructive.
Yeah.
Love and desire. You can be so much in love that actually the love turns to hate. So there's a lot of problems with the abstract sort of idea of what is it then, love.
It's
So
like it's what T.S. Eliot said. When I talk to you, I got to use words. It's like, no, you don't. You could dance, you could hug, but we're basically using hand gesture, facial expression, and verbal exchange right now. That's what we're in. And we're on television, telephone. But this is amazing what you said, because uh, you call it First Nation, because I always list them all, so I don't know, offend people. Native Americans, Indians, Indigenous, First Nation. They don't fight fires; they manage fires. So we're like, we've got to go fight the fire. They happen in California all the time. Fight. Just the word is what William Blake said. We become what we behold. So, like
yeah, yeah.
Lenny Bruce said, you can call cops three things: police officers, pigs, or peace officers. So why don't we call them peace officers? Because that's what we want them to sort of, nurture, is peace. So,
But that could obfuscate also reality. It's like
right,
naming
right.
victims of war. You could call them collateral damage. So it
Oh,
could obfuscate.
exactly. But I'm just saying, I don't like to say stop war. I like to say propagate peace. So, yeah, of course, that I don't want to be, I'm a Pollyanna, mamby pamby, I try to promote positive thinking, but I'm not. That's again back to Frank Zappa, who said, you've got to love the cops as they beat the shit out of you on the street. Now
What?
that's like, what is he singing? They singing that to hippies who are saying peace, love, and eternal cosmic wisdom. So he's satirizing to help them raise awareness, or he's touching on Eastern philosophy. So here's the next one in
Ah,
that
but
regard.
if you're quoting Frank Zappa, I wanted to throw one in. He used to say politics is the entertainment division of the military-industrial complex.
Oh, I
I love
know
that
that.
quote. Yeah, yeah. And I believe a lot like what you're talking about, because I also believe there is something to be said about contradiction, right? You
Yeah,
know, when Mahmoud Darwish is asked, as a Palestinian poet, is asked, why do you write about love? He says, you know, it's to actually expose the conditions
there
in
you
order
go.
for me that I cannot write about love. And so
Yeah,
it does not mean that if he writes about love, because in an implicit way, writing
yeah,
about love will be part of a political gesture anyway. And
yeah.
so it's in this contradiction, or what Picasso used to say, you know, art is a lie that tells the truth.
Tells the
So
truth. Yeah.
yeah.
But dude, that's I worked for Frank Zappa for 10 years. I've studied
Did
him
you?
for I
Okay.
worked for him for 10 years, but I studied him for 60 years. And the main thing he's taught me is how to embrace contradiction.
Yeah,
That
he
it's
was
possible. It's
he was so
possible.
witty.
Yeah, it's possible to embrace it. But the follow up is collecting more information, gathering information, more innate or more invented.
I'm actually on a course now that I give a workshop, and it's called From Infodystopia to the Interspecies Parliament, or the
Yeah,
Interspecies Salon. So, you know, in a way, you know, we're so bombarded with information that we get lost, and it's 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 there's something of a dystopia there as well, where there's so much information out there that actually that obscures. It's like when a missile in Iraq went down, and you know you get so close to the moment of impact that you see white noise,
yeah,
and so it obscures the fact that actually people die.
yeah.
I wouldn't agree with you know, the fact that Baudrillard says the war didn't happen. Of course, he was provoking, but when you see the white noise, there was no war. But
Yeah.
actually, it obscures the fact that actually, you know, it's like with Blade Runner 2, right? There's no
Yeah.
menstruation whatsoever. There's no blood because God has taken on cloning, right? But in reality, it doesn't work like that. So,
But that's
is that
like just what I think you're saying, just clarified to me, is that everybody's like, oh my God, disinformation. They can fake news, fake AI news on the internet. Well, then just increase your critical thinking skills. And
exactly?
that's what it should be doing instead of being, oh my God, we're fucked. But I'm curious, but in essence, what are you saying that
Well,
we in
the
wait,
disinformation is the politics of control. This whole
yeah,
disinformation
yeah,
thing is like, yeah, no,
yeah,
I think people are not stupid, and there is kids have become so media savvy. You know,
yeah.
why should actually from the top down that we have to, that they decide, or whoever is they, right, or the powers that be that decide like what's actually is the truth. It's not. It's co-created again. Truth is from.
Co-created. And we've had that from day one. And that's like these little kids go, that green screen isn't really good. It's like we didn't know what green screen is when we were 8 years old, but all the power to them. But I'm saying, is this need to collect information more innate in humans or more invented? Just your hunch or your intuition.
Well, my hunch is there's a third factor. If you talk about artificial intelligence, that you know that's a third factor. But you know what's at stake is actually consciousness to me.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That's
That
you.
and so I feel that's the big black hole that nobody's talking about. You know, they have their mouthful about transhumanism, but what's ever been written out is actually, you know, where did consciousness come from, right? For me,
Yeah.
it's the theme for the next project that I'm sort of
Well,
embarking.
that's perfect because you must have ESP because about 3 questions down, it's exactly the question I'm going to ask you. But let's go
Okay.
down with the script is, do thoughts create emotions?
Do thoughts create emotions, or vice versa?
Yeah.
There's, you know, I never think about one way. I think those things are always two ways. But are you asking this in like in relation to
No, no.
something very
Again, that's
specific?
what. Again, it's you put the questions in the context you want. You don't have to answer the question because some of these questions in the beginning, Johan, are is it more this or more that? And
Okay.
this one woman said the word more doesn't function in your question, and I love that because it does. And you answered it already. You said,
No,
or
but let me.
is it the other way around? And let me just finish. That's like I'm for inventing new questions. McLuhan was all about invent new questions and new metaphors. So when you answer a question with a question, you win. That's what this series is all about.
Okay.
So you answered it with a question, but you can elaborate if you want. It doesn't, thoughts creating emotions or emotions creating thoughts. Of course, it's a snake eating its tail.
Well, but let me bring it back to filmmaking.
Yeah,
When let me take it back to Truffaut and Hitchcock when they met. François Truffaut had sort of a remarkable sort of analysis of how actually Hitchcock portrayed his embraces, and he said, you portray your embraces as acts of murder, and your acts of murder you portray them as love, acts of love. And
yeah,
I thought it was interesting that actually, or the way that you know that Hitchcock, for example, North by Northwest, you have a love interest and you have a political backdrop, the Cold War.
yeah.
And so there's two stories. One is the emotional one, and it's the political one that prevents the love interest to get close to one another. But those two timelines will cross, preferably on the nose of Mount Rushmore, the nose of the president, and it's usually a national monument where the standoff happens between that intimate story and the political story, right? And then it becomes a cliffhanger because they hang
Yeah.
onto the nose of, and
Well,
it's
it's
the
back.
standoff, and it's the politics clash with, or one could say thoughts and emotions, but it goes back and forth.
Yeah.
One informs the other, and
That's you used a great word, cliffhanger, because they asked Paul Krasner, why is there evil in the world to his guru? And he says, to thicken the plot. So the cliffhanger is back to your word at the very beginning. Get closer to the story. Who's writing your story? You are writing your story, or is some great author writing your story and you're relating to it? Who's
or
writing
or the story writes you.
the story? That's another, you're anticipating. But while we're on it, because I wanted you to tell me, when I asked you what day you were born, you said August 12th. And then I told you that I thought that your film Double Take, is it called Double Take?
Yeah, double take. Yeah.
Double Take was one of the best. I've shown films for 50 years, mainly experimentals, mainly political docs, but all types of film. And I said Double Take was one of the best films for stimulating conversation. And I can remember
Mm.
the day I showed it at a little coffee house, Santa Monica, and we had the most incredible conversation. And then you told me in the numerological world, the breakdown, August 12th is your birthday, and then detail a little that the breakdown of Hitchcock and Truffaut.
Okay, well, when I was born in the afternoon, but it's the moment where François Truffaut is actually visiting and starting the interviews, the Truffaut Hitchcock interviews. He meets Hitchcock on the set of The Birds at Universal Studio, which is August 12th. But I went on, Alma, his wife, Hitchcock's wife, is born the 11th, and he's born the 13th of August. Castro, by the way, was born on the 13th. That's so ironical. I thought it was very funny because there's a standoff, of course, where Khrushchev is sending missiles to Cuba, and there's a standoff between East and West, Nixon and Khrushchev, and Kennedy and Khrushchev, and sort of you have those two masters meet on the studio at Universal, and they're talking about the birds, but Khrushchev is sending missiles already to Cuba, and this is we're talking the summer, and then in October, all hell will break loose, right? Because the world will be on the brink of nuclear war. And I was born as a kid of that Cold War sort of arena and East and West and a TV kid, and it's something that I wanted to explore. But again, you have that intimate story of two filmmakers talking, which results in all these sort of subsequent sort of interviews and dialogues. And then at the same time, that actually a political backdrop is happening, I thought was very interesting while actually The Birds is being filmed. And The Birds, there's an interesting text by Restivo in a Hitchcock compendium where he asked, and The Silence of the Birds is the article, and he asked why there's no television set in The Birds. And it's because the birds are television. It's
Oh,
catastrophe. It's catastrophe culture, invading the home. Because in the beginning, when television came about, the Warner Brothers was very upset with the furniture. They wanted to actually not get that television in any of the living rooms. It was banned on the set because they were upset. They were very upset about the television furniture. And so this is early, because that's also, Double Take is very much about the rise of the culture
Yeah.
of fear through television. And it's Hitchcock as television having a conversation with Hitchcock, the filmmaker. But ultimately, because the film was made with the rise of YouTube, which was 2006, 2007, and then it was immediately after 9 months, it was sold to Google. But it will ultimately, the lookalike, which is Ron Burrage, which actually is born on the 13th, on the same day as Hitchcock, but 30 years later. So this is really a Borges story. We're talking all about his birthdays. But it's the standoff between TV and cinema as well. But ultimately, while Google is actually buying up YouTube already. And so there's a big change. Dial history is very much about zapping.
Yeah.
How the 80s, because with the 80s you had a proliferation of the remote control, mid-80s, where the advertising industry is freaking out, and they're calling for zap-proof commercials, because people are zapping away during the commercial. And so the 80s is also the beginning of CNN, and it's the beginning of Reagan, because the inauguration of Reagan, who actually stalls the release of the Iron Hostages, to actually be able to have a grand intro with the release of the hostages on CNN as the beginning of CNN. It's putting a terrorist spectacle on the agenda.
Yeah.
And then MTV starts 9 months later. And you see how aesthetic codes are being exchanged, right? Exchanged between MTV and CNN. But also, when in the 60s, because there's this 20-year gap, in the 60s, a lot of cinemas are closing down. And there is this rivalry between TV and cinema. And so this is a bit sort of the backdrop for Double Take. I got off on a tangent here, but
no, that's what I want, Johan. It's amazing, because the first one, there's a great punk magazine in LA that spawned everybody. It's called Flipside, and Al from Flipside, Reverend Al, says, "Don't sell out, sneak in." So that's what when you got your film nominated for an Oscar, you snuck in like the ultimate, because there on the Oscars, this huge television event that everybody watches live, we saw a clip of soundtrack. It didn't matter if it was 10 seconds. You snuck it in. And so some people, I mean, all the heavy documentary people, I talked to them all. They're like, that film blew their mind. Like, how did this guy sneak this shit in? I mean, not shit, but you know what I'm saying. That was like amazing. I mean, that was just amazing. But you have ESP, because I want to touch on remote control.
okay.
Peter Greenaway's comments on remote control and instant replay, which McLuhan said, but that's down the line. I want to stay a little focused here for a second on what you were saying, because a lot of this is what's happening in our conversation, and what you're saying, connecting these patterns, is what Marshall McLuhan called complex clairvoyance. And Frank Zappa called it conceptual continuity. And here's the punchline. It all goes to humor and being able to break down and laugh and have, like my friend taught me, when you're laughing, you're learning. Do you know McLuhan and Hitchcock's favorite joke was two goats are here about 5 miles from my house in Culver City.
Oh, but I know that. I have it in my book. Two goats chew on a reel of film, and one says to the other, "I love the book better." Right?
That's it. See, you knew it. And that's McLuhan and Hitchcock's favorite joke, and that is like printed matter, moving image experience, TV, movies. Now, one little other one.
But there's another quote by Marshall McLuhan. Oh, what a blow that phantom gave me.
That's Edmund Carpenter. No, that's Marshall. Marshall was an associate of Edmund Carpenter. Edmund Carpenter wrote a lot. Edmund Carpenter wrote a lot of McLuhan's parts, but Marshall sort of took credit, and that was fine. Edmund Carpenter's amazing. That's the name of a book by Edmund Carpenter. Oh, what a
Yeah,
blow.
yeah, yeah. But there is a reference to McLuhan where there is a little anecdote where a dad says, I bought a color television because I didn't want my kid to grow up and not knowing that the world was not black and white.
And dude, how about this? It's like dueling quotes here. Do you know what Billy Wilder nailed it? He said, black and white is more true than color.
Oh my
Now
God.
isn't that a heavy statement? Because we live in a color world. Why would one of the greatest filmmakers ever say black and white is more true than color? Now you don't have to answer that now, but it's just, again, this.
But I answer with another statement. Love is blind, but maybe clairvoyant.
Oh, who said that?
I'm just inventing it on the spot.
Love is blind, but what's the last part?
Clairvoyant.
But maybe clairvoyant.
Clairvoyant.
Yes. Yeah. But is the word maybe in there?
Well, let me go back to, there's a little book by Harry Frankfurt, and he first wrote a book on bullshit. Yeah. And then he wrote a book follow-up, because bullshitting is like telling the truth and then you can get away with it, and it's even worse. Like it's a political stance that actually US politics suffers from. And then he wrote a follow-up book with On Truth.
Yeah.
And then on truth, again, he goes on a tangent that actually defending truth. And I would say so as well. And then he refers to Spinoza. And in a sense, again, the fact, if you say I love you and you cannot transmit that, and people take your words, you can say, oh yeah, I love you, and make a joke out of it. But if you don't sort of accept that words can stand for something, you don't have the basis for society.
Yeah. No, you're really good. That's brilliant, because again, I have this line when people go, I was just kidding. And I literally go, there's no such thing as kidding. But they sort of take offense, but it's a heavy thing. Of course, there's a thing called kidding. It's joking. But Louis Buñuel nailed it, the Godhead. I'm for anyone who seeks the truth, but I part ways when they claim they found it. That's a heavy one. But let's go back just for a second, because.
Well, let me throw another quote in. Niels Bohr.
Oh yeah, I know what you're going to say. Let me guess.
We get closer to the truth, the more you get into contradictions. So it's.
Yeah, no, that I have a whole.
And Wittgenstein, that truth is maybe closer to a joke because it can contain contradictions.
Yeah, truth is, but closer.
But let's, we shouldn't we should stop with the quotes and just dig in.
No, this is it. And here's the thing, Johan. This is the main thing McLuhan taught me. You can embrace a quote, learn from it, have an epiphany, but the point of it is to reinvent it. Mm-hmm. So, one of my main teachers who Craig hung out with said, Warhol said, in the future, everyone will be famous for 15 minutes. He reworded it to, in the future, everyone will have privacy for 15 minutes. So it's a simple little, and it's McLuhan is the one who started doing. I mean, many people have done it. Witty, Oscar Wilde, they switch quotes around to make a new point, like Echo and Newton, stand on the shoulders of giants and look farther. Robert Browning said, our reach should exceed our grasp, or what is heaven for? And Marshall said,
beautiful.
Yeah, and here's Marshall. Our reach should exceed our grasp, or what is a metaphor? That's funny, but it's also deep. Now, let me just do one little insert, because we're on a medium called telephone. In 1939, it was first displayed at the New York World's Fair. The same year Finnegan's Wake came out. Basically, Joyce invented Zoom and disguised it as a book in Finnegan's Wake. So 39, they're seeing it. But in 68, humans see it as a kind of reality in 2001. Kubrick's film. In the guy's in the spaceship and he calls his daughter on Zoom and wishes her a happy birthday. Well, do you know what Stanley said in the Playboy interview? Why did you make 2001? And he said to convolate Marshall McLuhan. And
Oh my
then
God.
Stanley, yes, he actually said that. And you know, Stanley invented Marshall to this pre-release screening, and after 10 minutes, Marshall fell asleep,
Oh
which
my
is
God.
even deeper because Harry Smith learned from Bruno the purpose of cinema is to put you to sleep so you can dream a dream with other people. So, anyways, that was a huge tangent. The next question is,
But I wanted to add 39 is
please.
also The Wizard of Oz, right? And
Oh
it's The
God,
Wizard of
it's
Oz. It takes you into the realm of color television,
it
right?
is.
And it's
That you know,
catastrophe culture, the window
yeah,
there, the window
yeah,
that sort of Dorothy is like watching, and it's catastrophe culture embodying the home, taking
oh
you
yeah.
into sort of the realm of fantasy.
And did
But
you
it's a
notice your
catastrophe,
hand? Yeah, your
the
hand.
vortex.
That's a woman's nylon. Did you know that? The tornado is not. It's a woman's nylon, and you know we got to put it to the present. Where's the future of cinema? Did you see the? Go to CBS Sunday Morning and type in Wizard of Oz at the Sphere in Vegas. Do you know what they're doing? Do you know
No, no,
this?
no.
Okay, do you know this venue called the Sphere in Vegas, Las
I
Vegas?
I haven't been. I haven't been.
Yeah, but do you know it? It's like where U2, the Dead, and Fish play, and it's a geodesic dome, and it's the greatest visual experience you can go to. I haven't gone there, but you can watch it on YouTube. It's huge. The sound system's amazing. And the first movie they're going to do there is Wizard of Oz, and it's going to go beyond the frame of the film, and there you're going to see more than what the frame of the film is. And there's going to be 3D things happening, like when the it's going to be totally taking the Wizard of Oz into what McLuhan in implied the Wizard of Us.
The Wizard of Oz.
That's a McLuhan term, and what you are, Johan, is a perfect example of this. Is that what happens? Is Dorothy is asked to go get the broom. That is the symbol of skywriting, advertising. Create the disease and offer the cure. Go get the broom and take it to the wizard. So she takes the broom to the wizard so he can send her back home. And what happens? The little dog, Toto, pulls the curtain back
Yeah, of
and
course.
reveals who's behind the scene. That's what you are. That's what Craig Baldwin are. You're Totos. You're atomic dogs pulling the curtain back. You see, here, I'm exposing what's really happening.
Yeah, dog lovers live longer than cat lovers.
So here's this is really fun. I appreciate your time and energy. And what you are is I appreciate you're a wordsmith, you're concise and articulate. So here it is. Fill in the blank. I don't know what I think until I
Well, let me go back to Raymond Tallis. You know, he sort of dismantled cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. He sort of coined it to we dialogue, therefore we are.
well say the first part
We dialogue, therefore we are.
we dialogue, therefore we are. Yeah. So you're saying until I dialogue?
Well, that what is the I, right? So that's what Raymond Tallis was asking.
Yeah.
This whole thing of like a personality that, you know, what is a subject? Maybe we're all many persons, right?
Yeah.
And so that's always in a vector of many different relationships. And so the I has to first of all be questioned, you know.
Very good. That's Walt Whitman. I contain I'm a contradicting. I contain multitudes.
Mm-mm-mm-mm.
And in Duchamp nailed it. I'm going to contradict myself so I don't conform to my own ideas.
Mm-mm-mm. I, w-
That's
I want to take it to I Contain Multitudes is a book by Ed Young. Huh?
Yeah.
he took the title, and then I was a bit into sort of researching Lynn Margulis about symbiogenetics,
Oh yeah. Good.
sort of the company of strangers, where metagenetics, that with termites, for example, you don't know where the DNA of one species ends and the other begins, because they have been gardeners for millions of years, and they have
Yeah.
co-evolved. And the mushroom gardens that they garnish has half of the DNA, and what they are represent is half of the DNA. So it's a symbiosis. And then
Yes.
yeah,
That's
but
called. The other woman I want you to listen to a little. Carolyn Casey, Coyote Network News. She didn't invent this, but she taught me the word biomimicry.
biomimicry. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You know
exactly.
what it is. The guy,
Yeah, yes, got.
so anyways, but the question is, I don't know what I think until I say it, is what McLuhan said. I don't know what I think until I write it, is what Joan Didion said. So the next
Uh,
question is, can humans think without language?
I would even go one step further, that animals can think without words.
Yeah,
But what is thinking, right? So you
yeah,
touch upon the subject matter of consciousness again. What is thinking?
yeah,
And there's a big fallacy of how, like, I like the little book by Thomas Nagel, Mind and the Cosmos. And Mind and the Cosmos, where he actually postulates that the Western scientific paradigm is up against a dilemma, because matter, everything has been reduced to what we can measure. But if you
yeah,
reduce everything to what you can measure, you lose out on a lot of stuff.
yeah.
And that's absolutely not scientific. And so maybe consciousness is not just trapped in our mind, not it's not just the gray matter.
Yeah.
Maybe if everything is and I'm here with John Lilly. Yesterday I saw a clip of John Lilly on YouTube. It was amazing, because he
Yeah.
goes on about reality, and he was very much in such a way, they actually claimed he was going nuts, but he explored the mind sort of in very
Yeah.
sort of very far-reaching sort of ways. And he also says, the mind, there's a sort of a conflation between mind and reality.
Oh
But
yeah.
if you say thinking is maybe reducing it, I'm making it a bit larger. But I think the mind, the relationship between mind and the cosmos, it's something that, you know it's to still be in awe, right? I think that's, we lost that. We
Yeah.
lost we lost the fact that we can so-called explain everything, but it's not. Reality is on the move, and our mind is on the move. And I think personally, like with the chrysalis, that we actually in a stage of chaos, where something else is moving, and we're toddlers when it comes to evolution. I think
Yeah.
humanity, the mind is sort of still on the go
Yeah.
as
Beautiful.
humans.
Beautiful. Because I have two friends who sort of dated John Lilly, or were sort of
Yeah,
girlfriends. Oh yeah, no, John Lilly's a heavy dude in Center of the Cyclone. Amazing. But
at
three
the
things.
center of the cyclone of the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, and the Wizard of Oz.
Another Toto, another Toto.
But here's Lily Tomlin nailed it. She says reality is just a collective hunch. So back to your word, intuition. Intuition. Then be in awe. You said we lost that ability to be in awe. That's what I highly encourage. Try it once. Read Finnegan's Wake, just a page out loud with a group of people. There's 52 Finnegan's Wake reading clubs. Everything we've talked about, you will see reverberating in the wake. He
Mm-hmm.
created this thing that's a living organism, and it's not. It's both him and Zappa said all times are happening now, all at onceness. But the last one is back to
Well,
Frank.
time is preventing us, that all happens at once.
Yeah,
That's the definition of time, according to, I forgot, I think it was Einstein or something.
yeah. And then Frank used a term that he didn't invent, but it's seemed to come from what you were, or reflect what you were saying. Wavicles. So there's waves and there's particles, and they're wavicles. So it's like, not distinguishing one or the other. It's a flowing. Mobius strip.
Or maybe it's a dimensional shift. When
Yeah,
David Bohm talks about wave of particle, he says you can film a fish, and if you film it horizontally from the aquarium on one side, it's a long fish. You film it from the other side, it's a head, but it's
yeah,
still a fish. It's actually the solution is on a dimensional shift, and that's
yeah,
maybe where particles dance in and out of existence. And with entanglement, we get in sort of far out now, but with entanglement, that maybe the nuclei of every atom is maybe a black hole,
yeah.
and which bit by bit seems to sort of like fit into place. That in essence, all those nucleus black holes are actually connected on another dimension. They all like fall together.
Yeah.
So I think when you think about them in a dimensional shift, you can maybe understand in a very different way how we actually stand in reality, or
Oh,
think about
beautiful.
time, or think
Yeah.
about.
Time. Yeah, like Sun said, space is the place. And I got to tell you this one, because when Captain Beefheart and Frank Zappa were both kind of passing on late in their lives, they both watched a documentary on PBS about the Big Bang. And Frank said to Don, "What do you think came before the Big Bang?" And Don said, "The big." So again, it's like how creative we can be with the words and what we think words mean,
Yeah,
etymology, and then where's the transfer. But here's
well, it
Chomsky.
was not being and it was not a bang, right?
Yeah,
And so,
the bing, the
because
bang.
they say that you can't, that was a joke between Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock, that you cannot, that was on the set, in space you can't hear yourself fart.
Oh,
But
wow. I didn't know that.
but it was not a bang and it was not big. But maybe, there's other theories that maybe the universe keeps on banging. I
Yeah.
just also yesterday, I should look it up. It was Israeli sort of scientist as well, and like he coined the fact also that actually the universe keeps on banging, and that the opposite of the bang is actually a white hole, so that it keeps going. It's not really,
Nice.
and it's another fallacy to say, okay, we explain everything with just a big bang, and then we don't have to
Yeah.
question it anymore.
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
maybe it's very different the way maybe. Well, anyway, I mean, we go off on
Yeah.
a tangent, and again, you have another
No, I
question.
love tangents. Believe me, I don't want to stop tangents. But here's the next one. And of course, we can go back. Chomsky says language is not. Oh, no. Are you still there?
Yeah.
Oh, what happened? Oh, I'm sorry. Something happened. Okay. This is Chomsky. Language is not just words, it's a culture, a tradition, a unification of community, a whole history that creates what a community is. Johan, what do you do when language doesn't work? When language breaks down, what do you do?
Uh, well, I often, when I talk about language, Truman Ha, the filmmaker, used to say, language is a leaking boat. So you have to
Yeah,
keep on, you have to keep on getting the water out. But there is, Materling used to say, if you name something, you kill it. But then,
oh, that's a Mallarmé quote I use all the time.
Mallarmé, yeah. But
Yeah,
also there is Dublin.
it's called
Dublin,
the quote goes like this: to define is to kill, to suggest is to create.
yeah.
That's Joyce, that's McLuhan's main two people were you got to know everything of Joyce and all the symbolists to understand McLuhan. That's why people don't give McLuhan. So you really nailed it with that. But I'm
Well,
saying like
yeah, sorry, it's Mallarmé, you're sure. But then Dublin used to say, language is actually a form of connecting, and it's actually not killing, but it's an act of love. So
yeah,
there's many ways of how one can think about
yeah.
language. It's a language, but it's a crutch to connect.
It's a crutch
It's
to connect. But I'm saying you're at the store, you're trying to communicate to the clerk, and then the communication breaks down. What do you do?
uh, uh, I there is this little book that I used to travel with, and it's a little book with all pictures.
Yeah,
And so if you're in trouble, you point like, there's all these different fruits. Of course, if
Yeah.
you're in a country with different fruits, like in Rio, there's a lot of fruits that you wouldn't find in that little book,
Yeah.
but you would
Yeah.
point out what the. But maybe not. I think maybe in the future we have telepathic film. We have like where you step
Oh,
in,
yeah.
and
But
so.
I'm saying even with your a relationship with your partner or your friend or your family, communication is breaking down. What do you do then? I mean, you could pull out a book and talk and point at pictures, but I'm just saying, what's your general attitude or philosophy?
But we shouldn't be afraid of this horror vacuum where actually nothing is being said. Maybe silence can
Right.
be very
No.
pregnant. Silence can
Oh,
be
I
very
agree.
pregnant.
Oh, I agree with that too. Yeah. But it's not a fear thing. I just ask people, what do they do? You know.
When the light, when there was a disruption in the light in New York, and there was no electricity, there was a baby boom like 9 months later.
Hello, that's it. Yeah. And what's going to happen when the internet gets shut down? And everybody goes, the internet will never be shut down, because that's proof is in the pudding. What do people do when electricity? That's the hidden ground of everything. That's the hidden ground of Finnegan's Wake is electricity. When electricity's out, they go, fuck. That's great. You're going to need electricity. Read the new article in New York Times Sunday Magazine, like last Sunday. It's 8 pages on what happened when a hurricane hit North Carolina. And all these people lost their internet, and they're sitting there like, what am I going to do now? And the guy goes, he started drinking and reading poetry. and, but,
Okay,
but
okay, okay, okay.
but the point of the article is the guy all of a sudden starts going into McLuhan in the middle of this article. Like, I couldn't believe
Uh,
it. And it was like, how, but anyways, we'll go on because
but
this
it's
is,
like Rebecca Solnit's book, Paradise Built in Hell. It's again
yeah.
where she finds the little utopias in the middle of catastrophe. And it's again that
Oh,
contradiction that actually in times of disaster, we becomes each other's brother's keeper or sister's
oh,
keeper.
totally.
And connection happens. Connection happens.
She's my hero. I've been trying to interview her for 10 years. Do you know her well?
Uh, I was actually, a friend of mine is her neighbor.
Yeah. Anyway,
So
she's amazing, and she said one of the most important things for all my interviews for 40 years. I tell people, just because you ask me a question doesn't mean I have to answer it. I'm like, I'm sorry that you can say I can't answer it. That's all right. So what your observations, Johan, of humans in general, are we more thinking beings or more feeling beings? I know it's a stupid question. I know it's both and it depends, but your observation.
no, but I would stress the word beings. Like
Okay.
it's yeah, it's neither. It's more, you know, we forget that it's the word a verb being,
Yes.
and so it doesn't matter. It's like
It
it's more than
doesn't
that as well.
matter. Yeah.
It's also touching. It's so many different
Yeah.
elements. But I would stress the word being.
Yeah.
Beings contains
Yeah.
the word to
You're
be.
you're you're a deep thinker because it's me and you versus the wording on the questions. So we're psychoanalyzing. I love when people the when people take the words and break down the words on the question. It's not where we're going to answer the question. It's why is that question worded with those words? So let's change that word. So your emphasis on being's perfect. This is 2 questions from Alan Turing in the 50s. One, is thinking a function of the soul?
Well, the big question was like, and that's a very contemporary question. The relationship between artificial intelligence and consciousness.
Yeah.
If you like with David Bohm, quantum physicist turned philosopher, and think about the implicit order that actually consciousness may be the basis of everything, and it's consciousness that made that we came about in an implicit way. It's told in a very simple way, but the other school is, instead of panpsychism, is emergence. So is consciousness the end, sort of the end, at the end of evolution, the sidebar at the end of evolution. But I would rather think it's the opposite. Maybe it's the ground of everything. But then you have to talk about the nitty gritty of what that entails. And I
Yeah.
think with artificial intelligence, we have made technology so utilitarian, not as sort of, we have made it as something separate from us.
Yeah.
And I think it's so crucial to go back to sort of what is that connection, we postulated everything as sort of separate from us. We define God as well as like something out there on a cloud, but maybe it's not. Like in the Spinoza way, it's that connection is intact. We're all part of that. We're part of creation. And so I don't know if I answer your question well.
No, you answered it perfect, because you touched on that cyborg. I got to tell you this one thought again. Someone
it's
who
again, Donna Haraway, who makes the big shift from cyberfeminism to kinship to connection with her dog. It's also that there's a big change that I think is so prevalent today, that if we make artificial intelligence utilitarian as a way to control, because that's the thing, we're afraid of that connection, we're afraid of that relationship, of how we define ourselves, and if we're afraid of that, it turns into control, and then artificial intelligence will turn on itself, and it will also be a means of control. But if you approach it in a different way, where there's a connection, then it could be an ally. So, and that's the question that is so crucial today. It's the way you define. I would define consciousness also in relation to, as part of everything.
In relationship. Yeah. It's almost, the consciousness questions is about 3 questions away. So you're building up to it perfectly.
Oh my God.
but before I ask you the second Turing question, which is related, is the guy that Craig Baldwin interviewed, and I've interviewed him a lot, is Bob Dobbs. Anyways, he said this term that it seemed you touched on. It's called the android meme. And what happens is humans invent things. Then those things have hidden psychic effects. So we don't know what Zoom has done to humans, but we sort of we don't understand everything it's done, but it's connected people, made it easy. I don't have to fly to Greece, or you don't have to fly to Venice to have this interview. So there's hidden psychic effects. We're discarnate, blah, blah, blah. And we don't always study those hidden psychic effects. But what happens is humans start imitating the hidden psychic effects. So we go, did you have a dream last night? Yeah. And you go, it was like a Fellini film. Well, that's like we're imitating cinema and saying that's what dreams are. So we put it in another realm, and that's the android meme. And the humans have disappeared. It's just android memes talking to android memes. So we've disappeared. So it sounds crazy, but it's sort of like this cyborg thing. I mean, in Venice, our town is overrun by driverless cars. So they're safer. They have 27 cameras on one car. No human has 27 cameras in their head. They don't have eyes in the back. So why would you ever get in a car if you want a safe trip to get in a car with a human driving? But the thing is I like it when the wipers go. It's like, well, why are you wiping it? There's nobody looking out the window. So it's creepy, and it has these hidden psychic effects. But everybody wants. I mean, San Francisco, they're fucking with them. They're like, trying. Anyways, it's a huge phenomenon that they're just getting us ready for cameras everywhere. 27 cameras will be following your ass everywhere. They already have cameras everywhere. So the second Turing question, Johan, is from Turing: can machines think?
Well, it touches upon the previous question, right? So
Yeah.
I do think that that whatever's technology introduced, because it's I don't think technology is as such there, right?
Wait, say that word again.
Technology is not just there; it's always in relation to as well. It's not. I think that's the thing of like making into an object, and then the object is sort of, it's reducing again what is relationship and what is community. But I think technology, the way we use it, always have unforeseen consequences where you can use it in a different way, that actually in a very creative way, even if it breaks down, right?
Yeah.
Even if it breaks down, you can turn it around where you use the technology in a way it was not meant, right?
That
And
is
so,
exactly what McLuhan learned from Finnegan's Wake. How do you turn a breakdown into a breakthrough? How do you turn
okay.
how do you turn a rejection into a redirection? But there's one little thing you said there that again evokes McLuhan saying technology is the most human thing. Now he doesn't mean tangible technology only. He means spoken word, philosophy, religion, toothpicks, bulldozers, cell phones. That is the most human thing, is to extend our humanness. So he says everything we invent extends our humanness. So that's funny. Technology is not just there. Are we hardwired to invent things like philosophy or uh, pens? Is it
Yeah.
in us? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think also, bowerbirds, or there's certain monkeys who use a stone, and it's like it's not acquired through DNA. It's also something that is added. So I wouldn't just say technology is only sort of a privilege of humans.
Humans,
It's
yeah, no, he's not. I don't think he's being limited. He's just trying to explain that technology gets this bad rap, basically. Oh my God, technology is this bad thing because everybody, whenever a new technology comes in, they go, oh my God, that'll ruin everything. And then they're all addicted to cell phones,
right,
you know.
right, right, right.
So, and in spoken word, we're all addicted to spoken word. Marshall
Yeah,
said,
language is
yeah,
also a
he said,
technical tool.
Marshall said a good one. He said, lane, wait, what's the, I'm not sure. Words are the most addicting and universal drug. So, I mean, me and you could have done this whole thing with a hand gesture in psychic or dance or whatever. But, anyways, can machines think? Go ahead. Any more you want to add on that Turing question?
It's also it's agency,
Yeah.
right? It's agency, and I think it goes back to the question of consciousness again. Sorry if I keep on
Yeah.
repeating myself, but
Don't worry.
yet it's of course you can you can with PhD, right? You can sort of imagine a world where machines think, but then um, you sort of part of a sci-fi world. You know what? I just set up a recent exhibition in Germany. It's called All Memory is Theft. All Memory is
All
Theft.
all
All
memory.
memory is theft. All
Yeah,
memory is
how do you spell the last word?
theft. All memory is theft. And it's a,
Theft.
it's
THEFT.
yes, yes.
Oh, that's
But
good.
it's of course to just allude to the opposite, right? It's from a book from Greg Evans called Permutation City, and it's where you have memory cups, right? And so consciousness or memory is being sort of on the black market, being sold and reeled and dealed, and so it's being downloaded and uploaded, and of course this is a sci-fi, but actually we
Yeah,
live already in a world of sci-fi, right?
yeah.
That's what they say. um, but I cannot not sort of like just go back to what I've already said about consciousness. I think, can machines think? It's sort of if you embed it with embedded with agency, but that agency means that, you know, like with transhumanism, maybe you're going to download consciousness, but I don't believe in that. I believe it's sort of more be a symbiosis,
Yeah,
but it depends how you define technology.
yeah.
or it's the way you define reality. And so you can embed something, you can embed something with sort of where reality is part of you. And then if reality is that tool or part of that technology, then yes, then there's co-creation happening.
Yeah.
I don't know if I make myself
No, you
clear.
make it really clear, because now we'll get to the question you've anticipated. But that is, all memory is theft reminds me of, in Finnegan's Wake, James Joyce has a line, remember to forget.
Right, right, right.
That is a great line. Oh yeah, remember, you should be forgetting.
You know this,
But,
the Borges story. There is the Borges story
oh,
about,
Borges, yeah.
yeah,
About what?
the mnemonist who can't forget, and so he remembers every drip on every leaf of every tree, and he has to go live in the dark because he can't discriminate, right? And so his memories keeps on stacks, and he can't live anymore because he remembers everything, which is a curse. Which
It's
is a
a
curse.
curse. But is that the Aleph? That's another short. Is it a?
It's a
Anyways,
short story. I don't know where I dug it up
yeah.
because
No, I
I
love it,
was.
because Borges nailed it. He was a Wakean too. But here it is. Finally, the question you've anticipated for the last hour and 10 minutes.
So
And
maybe I've answered it already. Maybe I've
and
answered
it's,
it
again,
already.
it's a stupid question. But if you already answered, that's fine. Does the brain more detect consciousness or create it? Like, is consciousness there bubbling away and we're more so detecting it or more so creating it?
I think it's creation using the brain, or
Yeah,
it's creation in a way that actually molded reality in such a way that we have brains. I
yeah,
think that's maybe the way I would postulate it.
yeah,
Because I'm like, maybe you heard already, maybe I'm a bit of a Spinozist, and it's sort of like I believe it's consciousness that shaped reality.
yeah.
And I feel in a lot of cognitive science circles, there's such, it's what the remontales also say, it's called neuromania. Everything is being reduced to neurons, and that's actually reducing what sort of maybe thinking or consciousness or feeling is. And it's not, it's reducing everything, to your measurement tools.
Yeah.
And at one point, Niels Bohr said to Einstein during the Solvay conference in Brussels, we have a problem, whatever we measure, it changes what we measure because we're part of the problem.
Yeah.
And then Einstein said, well, don't God doesn't play dice. And then Niels Bohr
Right.
said, and then Niels Bohr said, don't tell God what to do.
That is beautiful. That's okay. That's two little things. Duchamp, my favorite. There's no solution because there's no problem. So is that denying? Or it's like, well, why did you put the word problem on there? It's just consciousness, and we're trying to swim through all this and survive, So we're not even trying. We're just, back to your word, being. We're just being. So that you don't, oh, that's a problem. Well, no. I mean, that's the thing. It's the words we use. So the other one is, talk about rewording aphorisms. Winston Churchill said, we shape our buildings, then they shape us. And then Marshall said, one step further, we shape our tools, then they shape us.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
we shape our words, then the words shape us.
Exactly. Yeah, and it becomes too narrow, but it's a matter of and how you call that, re-embodying them. Yeah.
Oh, re-embody is a good word. Re-embody. Yeah. And that's back to what Marshall got from Whitman, that everything we invent extends some humanness. It extends us. It's embodiment. So what's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
Yeah, there is a big question about the speed of light because that's maybe past century. Entanglement is non-local, so it's immediately there, and it's that dimensional shift again. And I think thought is probably non-local
Not
and
local.
non-local, meaning it's there instantly all at once. But
Yeah.
if again, if you have that dimensional shift, then maybe there's something else going on with thoughts as well. So I think if we reduce everything to the speed of light, then we're trapped to
Yeah.
that, right? So
Yeah. Well, when Johan, when people go, most people say speed of light, and when people say speed of thought, I go, oh, there's no right or wrong answers to any of these questions, but that one you got right. Okay.
I didn't get that one.
Oh, yeah, I say there's no right or wrong answers to any of these questions I'm asking.
Okay.
But the one is the speed of light or speed of thought faster. Most people say speed of light. So when
Mm-mm.
people say speed of thought, 20% or a small percentage say speed of thought, I go, there's no right or wrong answers, but that one you got right. It's a joke.
Okay. But
And
also, it depends. It's also the download, right? So we're up against the challenge of having to work with the body.
yeah,
And so maybe it takes time before, through the Zoom, that your answer gets to me and that I have to think. And so
yeah,
we're living in a reality that has that resistance. If you say problems and solution, it's the challenge of dealing with the tools we have here, right? With the
yeah,
technology that we work with. So, and it's like
yeah,
that can actually have a it's the density of matter that actually makes that the thoughts become slower, but
yeah,
light is part of this reality. If you
yeah,
have another parallel universe or in that pluriverse that actually has different mathematics, maybe it wouldn't be light. Maybe it's a universe of thought, and then that would be much faster than light.
yeah. It's like landlines. You grow up with landlines and there's
Mhm.
silence. Are you still there?
Yes.
And freak out. And then cell phones come in and they go, "Where are you?" And it's like, just look at your fucking thing and it probably has a GPS, tells you exactly where the person is. Like it's like we're discarnate. We're without Marshall said this. We're without body when we're on a telephone and a television. We're without bodies right now. How can we deal with that? I feel we're both here present pretty much 98%. George Lakoff, those guys say, no, we're only 20% present, or we're only operating 20% consciously. We're operating 80% unconsciously or subconsciously. I would disagree a little. I think you've been present here completely, and I appreciate it because I've learned a lot. I appreciate this. So,
Okay.
do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
But you make those questions so dichotomal. Maybe, well, if you generate, there's something in finding meaning creates happiness as well.
Yeah,
And then, on the other hand as well, if you find happiness, it creates meaning, or
yeah,
yeah. I
but
also feel the sense
yeah,
of joy is a truth factor. I
is a
feel
what?
the sense of joy is a truth factor.
A
It
truth
means,
factor. Yeah,
so I also feel that if it's like you work on a story and you keep on elaborating. At one point it drifts above the water, and then at one point things fall into place, and then there's the joy, and the meaning is sort of very close to one another.
yeah,
There's sort of the the two sides of a coin. It's the flip
yeah,
side. It's the flip side.
yeah. Well, I got the question from Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. He says that happiness doesn't tend to last and meaning tends to last. What do you think of that?
Well, maybe one is nothing without the other.
Yeah, very good.
Is it that simple?
It's that simple. Come on.
I
Okay,
tend to think
again, it's relationship. It's a relationship.
You put me in a tough spot because you're putting me there in a way where I used to answer questions about the films in a way that I have been able to prepare. But you put me
Yeah.
on a tough spot because I have to dig much deeper.
Well, that's actually, you know what I'm after then. I mean, Craig, I interviewed Craig 8 times with all these questions. He would go, "That's a stupid question." Then he would answer it. And you can watch Marty Scorsese interviewing Elia Kazan, and the same thing happens. Kazan goes, "That's a stupid question," and then he answers it. I'm not asking for the answers. I'm asking for us to just be quiet, like Pascal said. The solutions of the world, of all the problems, are if someone could sit in a room and be quiet in solitude. So I'm just sort of saying, how can we breathe together with some observations or comments? So here's Audre Lorde, the poet. You can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. Yvonne Rayner responded and said, "Oh, you can if you expose the tools. What new tool do you suggest?" And it doesn't have to be tangible.
Imagination. Huh?
Oh, wow. See, you nailed that right off the bat. That's great. And so beautiful.
It
That's
seems
that.
like I 10 to 10, right? I have like I answered. I passed
No,
my grade, I guess.
you're like, you're knocking them out of the ballpark. Like, you know why Craig's such a great writer? Because he was a sports writer, and they learn metaphor.
Ah,
But imagination is I get that answer sometimes, and I'm always amazed because people are, okay, now I asked this tool question so many years, and a guy finally said, "Hey, what about a toy?" So the next question is, what new toy do you suggest, or what toy do you most gravitate towards?
a cup of tea.
Oh, that is good. Cup of tea. What do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
Uh, if I worry, I don't fall asleep, and then that's the trouble. But if I fall asleep, I don't have to think about that question.
Good. Do you know where I got that question? You want me to give you a hint? It's a famous documentarian interviewing a famous politician.
Oh my God. Okay. They have a lot of worries. I sometimes I wonder, can they even sleep?
No, I'll just cut to the chase. Errol Morris asked Rumsfeld, "What do you worry about
Uh,
when you go to bed at night?" I said, "That's a good question. I'm using that question."
oh my God. Well,
Okay.
he actually, this is the day before 9/11. He said we're missing 2.3 trillion on the budget in the Pentagon. That was the day before 9/11. All the evidence was destroyed the next day.
Wow.
The it hit the West Wing where the documents were that actually, yeah, that's 10 September.
That my favorite is they tried to hire Henry Kissinger, who people go, McLuhan's not political, and he called Kissinger the kiss of death. It was like a metaphor. Kissinger, they tried to hire Kissinger to do the report on 9/11, and he went, "Nope, I'll pass."
He used to say, the illegal we do immediately, the unconstitutional takes a little longer.
Who says that?
Kissinger?
Oh my God! See, he's a brilliant. Anyways. I'm not. I don't want to condone a war criminal. I don't like when these
Oh,
guys
yeah, yeah, yeah. I know, I
when
know, I
these
know.
guys die and they go war hero, and it's like, no, it should say war criminal. And,
Exactly, exactly.
Wikipedia was invented by a guy who whitewashes his own Wikipedia entries, and so you could see politicians hire Wikipedia specialists, so they slip in like Johan did something bad at the end of your Wikipedia entry, and then they slip in and go, "No, he didn't do that," and pull it. So it's like, who's defining what people do? Because they always love a controversy column on Wikipedia. you
Yeah,
know
yeah. Some people call it CIpedia, right? Because you
oh,
have 200,
CIpedia. That is
because
good.
you have now it's interesting because the guy who started Wikipedia is very upset with sort of he abhors now what was going on with Wikipedia. But you
Yeah,
have 200,000 internet trolls that play Wikipedia.
yeah,
or CIpedia.
Yeah. That's
So
good. You taught me a good one there because I like that. Um, Same thing was with World Book Encyclopedia. That's what I grew up with. I found one in the dumpster the other day and I was like, this is amazing how the Wikipedia took the protocols, not protocols, but the format of World Book Encyclopedia, which we grew up on. Okay, write a report. And you go to World Book Encyclopedia and the outlines there and you write, you know. And my friend,
mm-mm.
when Wikipedia started, he teaches kids. He goes, "We don't allow kids to use Wikipedia." I goes, "The fuck?" There's a lot of great information in Wikipedia, but again, how do you become a discerning critical thinker and try to figure
Yes, but you have to be aware of that tool as well. You know, it's creates a reality tunnel. Like
yeah,
I studied because I was sort of embarking on the the Monsanto Bayer situation with glyphosate, right?
yeah,
So you check on glyphosate, and it's the way how big tech, big agra, big pharma, all the sort of
yeah,
the corporate industries are actually not like paying for billboards anymore. They astroturf, right? They sort of delegate it to a company that makes sort of fake websites, and then
yeah,
actually spin information happens also in politics. You know,
yeah.
it's the same
But is
with
that's
politics.
the same thing with the yes men? The yes men can sneak in, use the master's tools, and then fake them out.
Mm-mm-mm.
And it's like, yeah, I love the yes men in a way, but in a way, it's like you're just empowering them. Because people can't tell the difference. So they think,
Yeah, the tool of you could yeah the tool of cultural masquerade, right?
yeah,
But when actually they exposed on CNN during the anniversary of Bhopal, the Bhopal disaster,
yeah,
they were able to actually for a big part have the stocks go down of Dow Chemical because
oh
they
yeah,
exposed
no,
the dirty laundry. They exposed the dirty laundry on CNN, and then they had to sort of correct it on CNN. But
yeah,
for one moment, the
yeah.
stocks were crashing of
No,
Dow.
that's brilliant, and that's what all journalism should be doing is pulling back the curtain again. But that's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I,
yeah.
I
Well,
made a I made a film. Craig loved the title. I made a film called "Who's Jamming the Culture Jammers." So here,
Mr. Marmalade, Mr. Marmalade,
who's that?
Mr. Marmalade, the culture jam.
Oh, Mr.
Sorry,
Marmalade. I'm sorry, I didn't. I was slow on that one. Okay, so McLuhan learned from Ezra Pound the poet that artists are the antenna of the race. They're broadcasting and detecting the hidden psychic effects of our inventions so we might learn how to cope with what we don't like about our inventions. So, Johan, I asked you the question Marshall probed his whole career. Why do we ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, even though the artists are broadcasting them to us?
Maybe we should have like what Joseph Beuys calls social sculpture, because inherently we should all get if I like we started with the question, what's crucial. I said story. I think everybody should get close to their story. I think
Yeah,
everybody is part of co-creating this reality, and
yeah,
so everybody should have their antennas out. But we actually all this the zombification of society. We
yeah,
sort of delegate and give our power away that other people can make decisions, but maybe it doesn't have to be like that.
yeah.
We're all co-creating and have our own antennas, and then we're all
Brilliant,
tu- we're all tuning to.
brilliant. Because Boys was one of those rare birds who read Finnegan's Wake and said, "Oh, I can do this." So he wrote another chapter on his own. That's
Ah,
that's that made Joyce cream his jeans in heaven. He was like, "That's why I wrote this book, so you go do something else." But that's like I've asked this question to Craig. A lot of times rich kids start the revolutions because they have the time to read the books and realize the working class is being screwed. So then they go to the working class and go, "Hey, you're being screwed." And the working class goes, "We're too busy working to be able to figure out that we're being screwed." So he sort of got it and discussed it. It's sort of like the Weather, no, not the Weather Underground movie, but the Berkeley in the 60s. It's a very good movie. And the Black Panthers are going, yeah, we heard Mao's Little Red Book was really good. So we went to Chinatown and bought a bunch of copies for really cheap and then sold them to hippies for $5. Eventually, we read the book. It's a good book. So do
Books, not
artists,
bombs. Yeah.
yes, books not about, do artists have moral obligation?
Well, if you're true to your story, of course, the integrity is so crucial. Integrity, but that means a lot. It's integrity to sort of, if stories embedded in relationships, that is a moral obligation because it's part of the
Yeah.
dialogue. There's tickling and tickling. You can you can use tickling as torture as well. but
That is,
but yeah, in essence, tickling is meant for joy. But I think there was a film made once where they were trying to tickle somebody to death. It was like trying to use tickling as
yeah,
torture, but that's not what I'm talking about. But that's the moral obligation of,
yeah,
indeed, I think it's 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 reinventing of like how we stand in the world, the meaning that we generate, and then that should have a moral obligation.
yeah,
But if it becomes only that, then it becomes propaganda, and then it tips
yeah,
over into losing the poetics. And it's to keep also that integrity of the way you can be joyful with storytelling or
yeah.
whatever is creating. And so we shouldn't lose that as well. I think it's again this back and forth, like one informs the other, the
Yeah,
poetics and the politics.
yeah. Because Eric McLuhan, Marshall's son, taught me two great things. Somebody said, I would go like this: every invention has services and disservices. So we want to, people have a bias like, I hate Facebook or I love Facebook. Well, no, the best thing is to suss out how Facebook's shaping us. In your lonely teenage room, you can say, I love it or hate it. But when you're with one or more people, you don't have a point of view. He said, understanding is not having a point of view, just to get the big picture. So this woman goes, well, what's the service of a torture rack? And I said that to Eric. I says, how should I answer that? And he says, well, you could say a torture rack could stretch your body to, get, almost like, help
Yeah,
you.
right. Or do the laundry. You can like
Oh yeah, you can stretch it,
the
or you can say I made torture racks and made money so I could support my family. I made them and people. So a torture rack has services and disservices, but we don't want to think atom bombs have services, and we want to have this big picture view. But the other thing he taught me was that the word to make, make, and uh, uh, the word to make, there's two words that it's the Latin root, and one of them is fake and one of them is fact. FACT is rooted in the word to make in Latin. The word FAKE is rooted in the word to make in Latin. So there's your full thing. Like, how do you suss between fact and fake? Because they're both rooted in the word to make. So that again is what you're saying is, I think a lot you've stressed is how do we embrace contradiction and get the comprehensive awareness of this, the two ends of the spectrum. Pascal said, in order to understand anything, you have to know this end of the spectrum and that and everything in between. So like, good luck. And that's what I think I learned from you today and in all your films is get a bigger perspective here. There's a deeper thing going.
and
Go ahead.
yeah, and the in between zone. The fact that
Yeah,
we have a dialogue. You ask me a question, I speak back, and you pick up on it. So it's also that in betweenness.
yeah,
It's not just tools. Again, it goes back to that relationship. It's
yeah,
it's 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 the words are getting meaning in the sentence that they're used.
yeah. It's the resonating intervals. So Johan, I hope and pray that you will do a part 2 so that we can get into filmmaking. we only got through a third of the questions barely, but I have a lot of more questions that will stimulate discussion. And it can be 4 or 5 or 6 months down the line, but I really appreciate your time and energy, and thank you so much.
Okay. Well, but yeah, let's pick it up again.
Okay.
And find a moment. Yeah. Keep me
Yeah.
posted when you post it. And are you gonna cut it? Are you gonna take?
No. As soon as I hit the end stream button, it's on YouTube. So I'll send you the link. It's going to be on YouTube. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
okay.
And even though I'm going to hit the end stream button right now, I hope this never ends and we can keep talking forever and ever. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.